Night flying can provide some of the most stunning views in aviation, from the amazing views of city lights to the cockpit gauges and the dials all lit up, and the view of the approach on the final is what gets me every time. But do you know what all the lights mean? What the colours are for, which ones you can taxi over and which ones you shouldn't? Well, I'm going to discuss all that and more coming right up. So strap in and let's get into it.
Good morning, 7614, 95 Mallow, 7 PAB with altitude.
Coordinating, Halen, I'm running bank, balance, bank pressure rolling at 30 degrees. At 30 degrees there.
Stand by, star 9000, 1013, K525.
G'day everyone and welcome to episode 176 of the Flight Training Australia podcast, the podcast all about flight training and flying in Australia and beyond. G'day, I'm your host Trent Robinson and thank you for joining me. Well, Oshkosh is over for another year. I saw many of you, I took the opportunity to head across and partake in the festivities, and looks like everybody had a blast, just like the poor old pilot of November 4301 Romeo did.
Just arrival. Can I do that? Rip on, come up with you at the test?
No, you'll have to start your procedure at Green Lake.
I don't know if I can get that.
Okay, November 01 Romeo, I think it's probably a better idea if you just divert somewhere else. I don't think you're ready for this. Appleton can take you, Alpha Tango Whiskey, or if you want to divert to Fond du Lac, I think that's going to be a better option for you.
But I would prefer to come into
Oh yeah, we want you here too, but we want you to make sure that you're really familiar with the procedure, and it doesn't sound like you are. I'm not trying to be mean, but there's a lot of things going on here, and it's very complicated, so we can't have you come in here and turn the wrong way.
Poor bugger. I totally get it. Flying into Oshkosh would be extremely stressful and full on. I mean, they had, 2,200 movements, 2,200 movements in one day, if you can believe it. And I'm sure you've seen those videos of the controllers. I've talked about it in episodes before. Just impressive stuff. Avalon would just never let anything like that happen here. I mean, I think they've already closed Avalon East just for the itinerant aircraft to fly into, let alone all going into the same airstrip that everything else is happening. So sadly, that's not going to happen again by the sounds of it. But a credit to the controllers managing that situation. I thought they were fantastic. And a lot of disorientation and confusion there. But there does come times that, maybe a little out of your depth, and the safety of others has to come first. And, whilst you might be safe to fly, not necessarily fly in all manners of airspace and locations, and maybe it's just best to get in a car like the rest of us. But poor bloke, and then got disorientated and took off the wrong way on a taxiway a couple of days later. Anyway, everyone survived, and he did make it home in one piece. Congrats to Paul Bennett, debut at the air show, putting on some killer displays, some fantastic footage online. So great to have an Australian pilot there for displaying, and we need more of that. Aaron Delude. Aaron started doing flying and aerobatics down in Jandakot in Perth when I was down there, and he's also flying internationally and trying to hit the American market of airshow displays and things as well. It's no easy feat, so well done, guys, and stay safe as always. It was great to catch up with some Aero Club members today and yesterday. Avid listener Philip, g'day mate, how are you? He contacted me just letting know they were passing through, and it was great to catch up with them and the CEO of Aviation, Awesome Aviation rather, Dieter Ebling. I've known Dieter for many, many years. I had the pleasure of opportunity to train his son, Cade, way back when I was back at Jandakot there, and had lunch with him and his wife, Phil and his wife. So it was really great to catch up with them and talk about all things aviation and the state of the nation and things and their trip, and went down to MKT this morning to see them all off as they departed on their way to Kununurra. So it's great to see a few more friendly faces and familiar call signs as well of aircraft I hadn't seen for some time, and Paul's RV that I forgot I've even flown in. So that was also good. All right, but it was really great. The best thing about that is just I hate seeing people get their pilot license and then do nothing with it. It's commercial's a bit different because you tend to be able to get someone else to pay for it. But as a private pilot, it's a wonderful achievement to get the license, but to then just effectively put it on the shelf and run out of time and money to not get to use it is a shame. So to see people flying around this incredible country of ours, I've had the absolute pleasure and fortune to crisscross it all different directions, nice down low so you can see everything. And it is just the best thing to do rather than just banging around in your backyard all the time. So if you do get the opportunity to do little flyaways like this through your local flying school or aero club, and you can afford to do it or split the cost amongst some friends, well worth it. All right, and finally, before we get onto our topic, again, just another tragic accident last week on an IPC of all things. So my sincerest condolences to the family, friends of the crew, very well known over in Queensland there on the Gold Coast, an examiner, just like myself, doing IPC like we do all the time, and something horrible has gone wrong on the ILS, no idea what, and again, it doesn't matter at this point in time. We just need to remember those that have not come home, and a reminder to us all that even just on a routine training flight or flight itself where there's no simulated emergencies or anything, we need to be at our best and on our A game all the time. Be ready for anything. I'm just as baffled as anyone else as what happened here, so I will be watching the ATSB investigation very closely, as always, to see if there's something we can learn from this. But yeah, rest in peace, guys, and everyone, again, as always, as I keep saying, please stay safe out there and stay on your toes. All right, so on to a brighter topic. We're going to shine some light, pun absolutely intended, on a crucial but often misunderstood part of aviation, funnily enough, which is aerodrome lighting. It seems straightforward enough, doesn't it, that the aerodrome has some lights on it and that helps us find the runway and land on it. But there have been multiple levels of confusion I've experienced recently with students, and also nationally and internationally, where incidents have happened of misidentifying lights, landing or taking off on the wrong spot, and damage occurring. So it doesn't really matter whether you're training in a country airstrip or taxiing out at Sydney International. Understanding aerodrome lighting isn't just helpful, but it's essential. You don't want to get lost. You don't want to turn the wrong way. But it's amazing when the lights go out. Whilst, yes, there are lights there, it can be disorientating. And I'll share a few experiences I've had as we go along. So I'm going to break it all down. And obviously the different types of lighting, first of all, is PAL lighting is one. So if you haven't experienced PAL lighting, it's not your little buddy. It's PAL, standing for Pilot Activated Lighting. And that is a set of lights that are permanently set on the runway and are activated by a radio frequency. So a typical VHF frequency, it's either the same CTAF frequency or it's got its own lighting frequency, and by a series of clicks, usually 3 clicks of about 3 seconds each, they will come on and stay on for about 30 minutes in most cases for a standard sort of set these days. And then it'll give you a 10-minute warning, flashing, windsock, and all that sort of thing. And I have talked about that in other night episodes before. If you haven't used it or not really sure, just search for Night VFR in your podcast player and the Night VFR episode will come up for you. All right, but that is required to be listed in the URSA or the Aerodrome Guide, and obviously NOTAMs will come out if that lighting's not working. The other kind of lighting that is going on is obviously more of a permanent lighting. Before we get to that, the final one is portable lighting. Now, there is a couple of different types of portable lighting, funnily enough. There is what I would call permanent portable lighting, and that is simply the solar lighting that you see up here in Darwin and in rural areas. I've done a little video on that a while ago and talked about it. But they are solar lights that charge during the day and then have a light sensor come on at night. But they are portable, that they're typically just pegged down or just sitting on the edge of the runway. They're not really secured, and they're not part of a wired infrastructure. So they are very much reliant on the battery working and a good solar charge. The other type of portable lighting is literally like a torch, and it has a little base that you put the torch into, and you have to go and turn every single one, or put every single one in position and turn each one on and then off again when they're finished. So not the most efficient way of lighting a runway, but more dealt for a emergency scenario. All right, but for permanent installations, there is all sorts of lights that we need to talk about. Now, the first bit will start as if we're starting the flight and departing, and that's going to be the apron lighting. Now, not all aprons are lit, but they're usually of an orange nature or a very warm white to yellow light, which again is all designed not to damage our night vision. And we don't want to be looking directly into lights, so we don't have lights so glary, but by the time we get onto the darkened runway, we have trouble seeing. So apron lights are there, and if they're not, then we definitely want to make sure that we've got our taxi lights, and look, if there's no one around, it's safe to do so, landing lights on as well. That way we're not going to get ourselves into strife, hitting things and running into obstacles, because again, our visibility is very, very low. Right, and then we get onto taxi lighting, and this is where confusion probably first sets in, I'd say. There's two different types. We've got taxiway edge lighting, which is blue. Now, some aerodromes have the lighting down low, like the little reflectors you see on the road, and they have a cutout each side with the light shining out. So the cutouts are typically for centerline lighting, and taxiway centerline lighting is green, right? Whereas edge is blue. So that's really, really important, because if you think, oh, there's the taxiway and it's lit, but not paying attention to the colors, you might think the blue is the centerline, and of course, taxi right over it, potentially put your wing into something. Your main tire is going to go off the taxiway into the grass. Not a good scenario at all, right? And by the same token, you might mistake the green as pretending they're edge and go too far one way. And again, you can go off the taxiway. And I've seen it very nearly happen personally with students on board, and I know it has happened all over the place. I've documented examples of that. So do be careful. So blue edge and green center line. All right. Green you can taxi over. All right. Then we get to holding points. Now, holding points, we can get things like stop bars or just holding point lights, and they're typically always going to be amber. All right. So amber lighting means caution. Be careful. So the green lead you up to it, and then they'll be either stable orange or flashing orange. We've got both up here in Darwin. We've got the flashing lights. They're not stop bars, but they're the like clearance lights sitting on the side, alternate flashing left and right, and the holding point is lit with a couple of orange holding point lights as well. And most airports have that. I know Jannecott's got them extremely bright sometimes. You're always trying to taxi the nose over the top of them, or just to block, not over the top of them because then you'd be on the runway, but just to block the light so it's not too bright shining into your eyes. Right, but the holding points, very, very important to note where they are marked. Not all are fully lit though. Sometimes they might just have an orange light either side of it. So you need to be very, very careful that you don't accidentally cross that holding point and enter the runway environment. All right. The other taxi lighting that you can get as well is leading you out onto the runway or leading you off the runway. If it's leading you onto the runway, then it's typically green, again, as a centerline lighting. Leading you off the runway, the modern setup these days now is to have alternating orange and green taxiway lighting, which will tell you that that's an exit. So slow down and be careful as you approach that. And that is starting to show up now at airports that are obviously having lighting upgrades. It's a very expensive thing to do, so it's not going to happen overnight and take time, but we've just got new lighting up here in Darwin, and that's now what we have. So it's green one way and orange and green the other. Again, the little cat's eye style mounts in the ground, in the bitumen, and the little holes each side to let the different coloured lights out as needed. All right, once we're on the runway, the next thing to understand is, does your runway have centerline lighting or not? Because this is the next problem. You've just gone from potentially green taxi guidance going under your nose wheel. It's only natural that you're going to think, right, I want something else going under my nose wheel to show me the centerline. And that's the runway edge lighting. And the runway edge lighting is white light defining the edge of the runway. This has happened multiple times where people have lined up and gone da-dunk, 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 and hit the taxiway lighting. A really good example of this is the Dash 8 took off out of Mildura, struck all the runway edge lights. That was only in February this year, February 25th. So Qantas Link Dash 8 at Mildura Airport mistakenly aligned with the runway edge lights instead of the centre line during takeoff just before first light. During the takeoff roll, the aircraft struck and damaged multiple runway edge lights over a 400-metre stretch before the crew corrected their alignment and continued the departure to Melbourne, landing with minor damage to the aeroplane. All right, so again, there's a multi-crew real-world example of just that lack of thought about the lighting and the colour and what it is indicating and representing. Get that messed up and it can really ruin your day. All right. And there's another example of an Aero Commander 500 damaging runway light in Brisbane in 2024. So again, they didn't think they hit anything, but it was a very clear damage and definitely something that you need to be mindful of. The other thing while we're talking about avoiding lights is I've mentioned the ones in the ground, but sometimes they are sitting on little stalks, little poles. And again, stray too far left or right, and your propeller, especially if you've got a twin, probably most likely you could very easily collect a few of those. And I know that has happened again at airports, which is obviously going to do damage to the light, but it's also going to do damage to your propeller, possibly your engine, potentially flick things up into the fuselage. So it's no win for anybody. All right, so runway edge lighting is white. Now, we move into different types of edge lighting, and this obviously leads into approach lighting as well, that if you look up in the IRSA, it will always describe the kind of lighting that is available at the aerodrome you're going to, assuming it's a registered aerodrome. If it's not a registered aerodrome, then it's most likely not going to be in the IRSA, or there's going to be very little detail. It'll be in the IRSA if it's a regularly used one, but otherwise there's no requirements for NOTAMs and anything else to go into the IRSA there. So just be mindful of that. You're going to have to source the information elsewhere. But if it is in the IRSA, it's going to tell you what sort of lighting it's got. And it's going to give you little acronyms and mnemonics like LURL and MERL and HURL. And I love going out with those guys. They're really a fantastic, good laugh. No, it's not who they are. All right, so LURL, MERL, and HURL is low, medium, and high intensity runway lighting. What does that mean? It means the air traffic controllers have a little knob up in the control cab, and they can turn it up and down and adjust the lighting just like a dimmer switch on the wall and your lighting at home. And we used to love doing this way back into Perth when we could do missed approaches at night. And we'd ask them for a little high-oil demonstration, and they would sit there and turn all the taxiway lights off and then back on and turn them up bright and then dim them and do the same with the runway edge lighting and also the approach lighting, which I'll get to in a second. And the whole Perth city dimmed because these things were sucking so much electricity. It was great fun. I always remember, just a little side anecdote, back then, Ansett WA, as my dad was flying the 146, they used to fly out to Cocos and Christmas Island. And so they were engineers were towing the 146 from the international apron back across to the domestic, which is where Ansett was, which is where Qantas currently is. And he was complaining that the lights weren't working properly. And the controller said, no, that's all good. It was just me. But yeah, we used to do that as well. So the students could, this was just night VFR. I wasn't even teaching IFR at that stage, but just so they could see how the lighting worked and what it all meant and did. And unfortunately, we don't really get the opportunity to do that sort of thing these days. But that's runway edge lighting, LURL, MERL, and HURL. All right, then of course we've got the runway end lighting, which is all red, and the threshold lighting, which is green. And they are, of course, unidirectional lights. So they are a 50-50 light, only visible from the landing or taking off direction. So green as you approach the threshold, but if you were to stop and turn around and look back, you'll see that they're now red. It's not magic. They're just a 50-50 light. Runway centerline lighting, as I mentioned earlier, if it does have it, it's usually white also, changing to alternating red and white towards the ends of the runway to indicate that you're running out of room. But that's usually only for runways that are more than 45 meters wide. And that's the situation we had at Darwin here, that everyone's been pushing for centerline lighting because it technically wasn't compliant. So instead of using the width of the runway, they brought it in 7.5 meters each side, making it 45 meters wide, and therefore didn't have to put centerline lighting in anymore, which is a shame because even on a 45-meter runway, it is quite wide, and the tires of aircraft rub out those white lines. They were only remarked a couple of months ago, and already they are extremely difficult to see. So you really have to rely on your peripheral vision of where the runway edge is and keep yourself nice and straight because there's no centerline lighting to guide you. All right, then we've got sometimes you can have touchdown zone lighting. All right, they can be about 900 meters or so, halfway down the runway, and runway guard lights, which is the bar lights that I was talking about earlier with the holding point, which will flash orange and show you where the intersections are and the holding points to try and stop you crossing the runway without a clearance. All right, so that's the taxiway runway lights from a ground perspective. But what about when you're on final approach? What's that pretty Christmas tree thing you see in the photos and movies sometimes? Well, that is the ALS, or the approach lighting system. And they are, like I said, that's that Christmas tree you see. They come in various forms. Sometimes they've got a little chaser light, which runs down, and that's very, very cool. Looks pretty cool, but can also be distracting to some people. But it has a function, and it's not so much for a VFR pilot, but more an IFR pilot. All right, but those approach lights can be for category 1, 2, or 3. It can have crossbars, sequence flashes, sidebars, and they can be red, right and close to the runway, showing you where it is. And all this is to tell the pilot when they can't see the runway in very low visibility where the runway is expected to be. Follow the little, the flasher, the sequence flasher. Follow me. This is the way to the runway. And then you see the difference in the white and the reds for category 2 and 3 approaches. And that is all more for aerodromes of very low minimums or even auto land. And then the final part of the approach lighting system is the PAPI or the PAPI, the TVASI or the TVASI, again, depending on how you like to pronounce your A's. But PAPI is the precision approach path indicator. That's the white and red ones. And what most aerodromes these days are moving towards, because it's only 4 lights and they're a lot cheaper and easier to install and maintain. All right, so it's just 4 lights indicating 2 white, 2 red is typically the perfect glide path for a 3-degree approach profile. The VASIs, they're called a T-VASI typically because it's actually more of a big plus, but it's 4 white lights across, and then it has lights going up or lights going down, depending on if you're high or low on profile. So a lot of aerodromes are removing those now just because they're more expensive. They've still got them out at Kununurra, I know, and there'll be a few other places that have still got them, but the PAPIs are the ones that are more likely you're going to see these days. All right. And again, all helping you know that you're on a stable, safe profile and you're not going to hit anything below you. All right. And then some airports still might have an aerodrome beacon up on the tower and they can be mounted on top of the control tower. Sometimes there's red lights around obstacles and things as well, which are definitely required. And we'll let you know where obstacles are. Again, shouldn't bother us as pilots in fixed-wing aircraft so much, but helicopters, 100%, definitely needed. All right. So, yeah, that's all the lights and what they mean and what you need to be careful of. Now, this is all part of the aerodrome lighting requirements. If you want to know more about it all, you can go check out the MOS, and just like we have Part 61 and 91 for us, airports need a MOS too, don't they? So they have MOS 139 as their part, and that will talk about the requirements for certified aerodromes, registered aerodromes, and obviously international aerodromes of what they must have. Now, sometimes I've shown you photos at places like MKT, for example, up here. It's our little training airport that is just a private airstrip. It's not certified. It's not registered. Well, we've got lights down there, and people go, oh, they're illegal. You can't do that. Well, there are no requirements for an airport like that. So if you look up the regs and the rules and things, and what it basically recommends is, well, this is what the big airports need. So we recommend you probably do something pretty close or similar to that. Now, instrument approach airports will have runway lighting separated by 60-meter spacing, but 100 meters is fine, even 200 meters. If you spread things right out, you can see where the edge is, but it's not so good for training. So at MKT there, we've got pairs of lights every 100 meters, and that's mixed up from a bunch of repurposed solar lights that we've got new batteries for, and check them all, make sure they're working. They're working fantastic. And believe it or not, we did make up some runway edge lights by solar-activated Bunnings lights, garden lights. We painted some green and red for the approach and end lighting, displaced the threshold as needed for the approach profile because of the power lines on one end and trees at the other. And they are still going strong. Marty did a fantastic job, and Kane and the guys collecting the lights, and they are still going strong. Well over a year now. I think they've been up a couple of years now. There's one I fixed up the other night, just fell over a little bit, but surprisingly well. And we were testing them from about 15 miles out, easily visible. Very, very effective. So anything's possible, guys. You can do things cheaply. But for a certified registered aerodrome, obviously you can't do that. But as long as they're going to be reliable and safe, you still need your same alternate requirements in case they don't work. And we've got Darwin right nearby if we are operating out of MKT. So that works very, very well indeed. But Part 139, if you want to go and check out some more. All right, so a few quick common errors just to wrap things up would be definitely misinterpreting the lights, the light colors. So again, that taxiway edge is blue and centerline is green. Okay. If you've got PAL lighting, make sure you know how to activate it. It's on the CTAF frequency, then it's going to be 3 1-second pulses. If it's got its own frequency, that's typically going to be 3 3-second pulses. And again, make sure you do proper pulses. Don't just flick it because that'll be too short and it won't work. And I've had pilots trying so many times to get lights work, and then I'll just go on once and do it properly, and voila, it works. So if you use it properly, it will work. It can fail, of course, like anything, and that's why we have our mitigations of radios and holding fuel. So make sure you don't just assume that every airport's like the other one as well. So check out the URSA, check out what lighting is installed so you can be prepared and you know what you're looking for when you're exiting the runway, and how to stay on the taxiway properly, either following the greens or in between the blues. All right. And for PAPI indications, make sure you use it. If it's indicating 3 red or 4 red, you're too low. Level off. You don't necessarily have to climb, but level off, re-intercept, and then re-establish yourself on the correct profile. Right, but always look up the NOTAMs if it is a registered certified airport for any lighting issues or whatever, and or call up the operator just to make sure everything is functional before you go. Right, so next time you're briefing a night flight or even just taxiing out at dusk, spare a thought for the lighting system. It's doing a lot of heavy lifting there, and enjoy it. Some airports now are getting beautiful bright LED lights. Some have got the dimmer older ones, but they are all there for a purpose. So stay safe at night and don't hit anything. All right, if you do have a good story about runway lights running over them, or the PAL not working properly, or any other funny stories, I'd love to hear it. Please flick me an email, info@trentrobinsonaviation.com.au. You can hit me up on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and share it there if you like. And yeah, I might even share it on the next episode. All right. Thank you for listening, and everyone stay safe out there. Have a fantastic week flying. As you can hear, I've got a little bit of a cold going, but that's okay. I'll be better next week, and I will see you then. In the meantime, blue skies, clear dark nights, and remember the golden rule: aviate, navigate, communicate. See you, everyone.